somehow falls and prices actually fall, and somehow people feel better about the economy. Unlikely. Courts allow the latest student loan repayments to be upheld and continue. Unlikely. There's a work authorization for illegal immigrants, some big deal in Congress. Republicans see absolutely no upside in that. Ukraine peace deal also seems unlikely. And the cultural wars aren't going away either. Today, the White House marked Transgender Remembrance Day. We should note the same suburban swing voters who didn't like mean tweets in 2020 and voted for Mr. Biden are perhaps now more scared of carjackings than they are interested in supporting trans rights. Chris Stirewalt is here, NewsNation political editor. Fair analysis, Mr. Stirewalt?
Well,
I'll take that as a no, but go ahead.
What lost the election for Donald Trump in 2020 was his handling of COVID. When you get right down to it, people are fine with Donald Trump being a jerk. Or if they're not fine with it, they can live with it if the economy's good, things are good. And COVID did end Donald Trump's chances for a second term. What's killing Biden right now, the thing that's dragging his numbers down, and you alluded to it, are a loss of support with younger voters. Those voters may very much care about trans rights. They may very much care about these other things. They're mad at Joe Biden. I have never seen a poll that showed it this starkly in such a short period of time, where a president has lost so much support in his own party on a foreign policy question so fast. And I think it's Israel more than anything that's driving this down for Biden.
All right, so President Biden's probably done the only thing he can do on the age issue, which for older voters seems to also be an issue, which is make light of it. Take a listen.
I just want you to know it's difficult turning 60. This is the 76th anniversary of this event. And I want you to know I wasn't there in the first one. I was too young to make it up.
Does that work if there may be, shall we say, a different version of what the American people look at as their president?
So Joe Biden's problem, hands down, more than anything else, is that he is too old to run for a second term. Americans overwhelmingly believe that he is not up to this job. And it's not just Republicans, it's not just independents, it's Democrats too. And there's really nothing he can do about it. I've seen a lot of analysis from a lot of Democrats that say, well, he needs to joke more about it. Or I saw one that said he should be like a leading man in his 80s, like Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood. No. Everybody ages differently, and everybody seems different at different ages. A lot of people don't know I'm actually 24 years old. This is just this is just how I look.
You wear it well,
this is just how I look. No, but for Joe Biden, he's a very old 81. He seems like a very old 81, and it's in his gait, and it's in all that stuff, and it's not going away. That's not going to go away.
You alluded to this over the history of Joe Biden's political career. He has tried to have it both ways on a lot of issues and appeal to both the progressive base and also moderate Democrats and swing voters. He was able to do it during 2020. Whether he'll do it during 2024 is a different issue. Nightmare scenario for the White House is an attack by these Iranian militias on one of the U.S. bases in the Middle East where Americans die. We're now up to 64 attacks on U.S. forces, 30 separate times in Iraq, 34 separate times in Syria. You can see the map there. So far, the White House keeps saying the president is going to support and defend U.S. troops no matter what. It seems to be that they're waiting for an American to die before there's a real response. How big of a potential liability is this?
Well, I don't know what the liabilities are from the United States from a national security standpoint, but I know that from a political standpoint, there's no tolerance in the American electorate, or no significant tolerance in the American electorate, for the loss of American lives at the hands of Iranian-backed militias or whatever group they may be. And Biden it would be imposed on him by popular will that there would be a swift and stern response. And then, of course, you get into exactly what nobody wants, which is a widening conflict and the United States being drawn deeper in. And as much as Americans jealously guard the dignity of the country and jealously guard the idea of the Americans being safe abroad, they also do not want a broader conflict in the Middle East, and that's what Biden's trying to skate between.
I'll give you the last 20 seconds on this. You think about the inflection point, the death cross of President Biden's favorability in poll numbers. It came with Afghanistan and the disastrous withdrawal there. if there is an attack and American service members are killed overseas, how much of it is not going to be a problem looking forward? How much of a problem is it going to be people looking backwards and saying he could have prevented this?
I think given Biden's relatively high ratings on Israel when it comes to Republicans, and I know that's a hard number, but when I think Republicans and independents generally see Biden here as being more hawkish, being tougher, and doing those things, I think that has healed some of the bitter memories about Afghanistan withdrawal.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.